A subject that is a little bit almost like a hate word because it's a buzzword. It is a little bit like blockchain was 3 years ago. Everybody's talking about AI. I spoke to Kenneth. There's even a rumor that public funding in Singapore would only be linked to AI tools, but you said it's not true. But it shows you, every rumor has some foundations. It shows you what kind of importance this word has gotten for us. And since we want to keep things very lively here, we want to basically think about how can we convert a buzzword into actionable items, and how can we really make it, bring it to good use. And this is why I'm quite excited that we have a very wide spectrum of people sitting here that can apply things to their particular part of our industry, and we will jump into that quite fast. I was thinking about how can I set the scene, and then I saw when I did some research a LinkedIn post by a person most of us know, Shakib Abisab. He's the CTO of Lloyd's, and as always he's sharing his wisdom, whether we want or not, but he was talking about AI. So please bear with me while I read that to you. So he says, let's be real, AI isn't just the future, it's happening right now. If you think AI-powered tools are just for tech geeks, think again. These tools are already drafting many documents, personalizing content like a boss, and automating our schedules so our posts hit at the right time for maximum engagement. And here's the kicker. It's not just about saving time. It's about being relevant in a world that's moving faster than ever. Companies and individuals that get stuck in the "we've done it always this way" mindset are setting themselves up for a major reality check. AI adoption isn't optional anymore. It's the key to staying competitive. Whether you're creating content, interacting with your audience, or just keeping things organized, AI is transforming how we work, live, and engage. Think of it this way. Imagine still using a flip phone while everyone else has smartphones. That's where you are at if you're not embracing AI and automation right now. It's like bringing a spoon to a knife fight. So, to all my connections, don't wait until you're forced to adopt AI, because by then, you'll be playing catch-up. Start now, learn now, and watch your efficiency skyrocket. It's time to ride the AI wave and let it carry you to new heights. I thought it was quite remarkable, and that's why I take your time to listen to the story. And it's maybe a good intro to what we want to do. Because when you start doing research on where do we actually use it, and I think that is also my case in point, we have to go back to the use cases. And use cases are basically defined by the 3 drivers that we have in the maritime industry. They're reasonably simple. It is safety, it's savings and efficiency, and sustainability. These are the 3 boxes that need to be ticked, and I think all AI-driven initiatives also have to be linked to that. Also, it is a common fact that 90% of global workforces spend 60% of their time with repetitive tasks. Of course, also something that we can talk about later. When we also talk about AI, it's about technology. So everyone has to ask himself or herself, how ready is our organization to apply AI? So very optimistically, it seems that 60% of staff in the maritime industry think that their company has the IT tools ready, which I doubt, but please for you to comment eventually. And strangely, only 32% of maritime companies have an AI strategy altogether. So there's a lot of things that are still open for discussion. We're just at the beginning of putting this into our daily reality, and I think that is what I want to discuss. I want to also mention that, as with all new ideas, startup, mature services, monetization is key. So we have to also keep that in mind. End of the day, because it sounds good or sounds sexy, it's not good enough. So this is also something we want to consider. Before I let you all talk, I looked up what is the 10 points for practical applications in the maritime industry. I would just want to mention those, and that will be guiding us through our discussion. So I have fuel optimization, energy management, then is vessel performance management, we have plant maintenance and AI assisted, we have compliance and risk management, fleet management, crew management, voyage optimization, condition monitoring, cargo management, and then safety and security. So these were the points that have a direct link to AI applications as we speak. But maybe now is a right time to jump into things. We have good cross-section. Of course, we have heard you before, but I'm sure you have some additional fun ideas. Jamie from the owner-manager side. Then happy to have Cynthia here for the ports and intelligent ports rather, and then from the club side, P&I Club, of course, a lot of impact. So I would like to open the floor, and of course we start with a lady, to ask, do you already have now an implementation example that you have already started or completed, and where you can report how that felt and what the hurdles were?
Yeah, thanks for that, Peter. I think it's a very good, extensive introduction. So where we are trying to get at is, for AI, we're trying not to make it sound like a bad Botox job. So basically, what we are trying to do here is create a lot of sandbox solutions, run it on the ground for operational management, safety management. You see, the environment that we come from, Jurong Port is a little bit different from the container ports that you see around the world. All right, we are in the traditional 150-year-old shipping environment where it's 80% of the time manual labor. We don't have key crane infrastructure because of the nature of the cargo that we handle is largely break bulk. And so safety of the workforce that's deployed on the ground is paramount. So things that we have deployed on the ground that we are studying would be, are our workers safe when they are working in the cargo hold? What about our forklift drivers? We are tracking and understanding their behavioral patterns as well. Are they driving around unsafe zones? And do we risk any workers that fall from edge? These are some of the areas that we have run sandbox solutions on. They're integrated into our digital twin system as well. So we do not intend to stop here. This is just the beginning. Another area that we are looking at is on document processing. So the use of NLP tools to harness large amounts of data sets that come through that enable us to give intelligent recommendations on what kind of resources that we need to deploy on the ground. That goes directly into our planning activities that we typically do for vessel operations. So these are two examples that we are that we have run on the ground. We intend to expand and scale. I have to say, in port management, we are not there yet in terms of identifying the right strategic roadmap, because at this stage, let's get out and understand where the use cases are, deploy them on the ground, study them. What do we need to combine them with? AI cannot operate on its own. It's usually AI and something. So it could be AI and connectivity, AI data, AI software, and IoT, so on and so forth. At the end of the day, it's about making it real and relevant. So that's why I really love the LinkedIn post, Purawa Chakip. Yep, that was a good one. And it's a constant study. Let's not be afraid to study and fail, because at the end of the day, we need to fail in order for us to be able to be successful at it. So yeah, that's what we do.
Thank you. Maybe I can give the word to you.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm acutely aware that we stand between you and drinks, so I'll try and keep it short and coherent. Maybe not like a first thing to mention is that, yes, I do believe that use cases should drive the adoption. I think it's easy to become enamored with a new technology and try to find use cases to apply. I think it should be the other way around, start from the ground up with use cases that need to be resolved and then ask what technology can alleviate that sort of problem. And when I look at these top 10 areas where AI is expected to drive improvements, I think a large part of where we see the snail adoption pace that was mentioned before is that we look at problems in a very large, overreaching way, and we sometimes forget that a series of small and practical applications really drive that mindset change So the first thing that we have implemented as of June this year was a sort of chat GPT for our safety management system. So through our Teams interface, available both on our desktops and our mobiles, we allow our employees to ask questions about the safety management system in a conversational manner, and you get responses, citations, and links to each of the documents as well, including a short summary. Since rolling it out to our shore staff, we've now started rolling it out to our fleet of vessels as well. Since then, we've not only limited our knowledge scope to the safety management system, we've also included things such as internal circulars and alerts, externally issued circulars and alerts, and now we've actually greenlit a series of other projects to sort of augment it with even more knowledge sources, such that it becomes the most comprehensive knowledge tool within the organization.
And what is your adoption rate?
It's been overwhelmingly positive to a point where I'm not sure if people have actually really delved into it to like the depths. I've not heard a single complaint, which at first seems really good, but also concerning as well. So we really have to balance it as well. From the vessel side, all of the masters are asking it to be installed on both the masters and chief engineers' laptops or like at the workstations. An unexpected benefit which we've seen on the shore side is that it's become really effective at audits. You can retrieve information almost instantly. So beyond just trying to find information to execute your day-to-day tasks, it's also, from a compliance point of view, quite good. Yeah.
Thank you. And can I ask you, because you're the conceptual guy, right? Is it a reasonable concept to assume that in a human-machine interface, you will try to have a machine answer standard questions to an degree of 60–70% in an intelligent way, so that the real people and the qualified people that you have jump in when the machine is out of wits? Is that part of your genetic setup of what you're trying to build?
I think it goes back to crawl, walk, run, right? It's like, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of saying, do you have an AI strategy? AI is a tool. I mean, the same way you have a data strategy, the same, AI is a tool, right? You need to use it for, and it's true for everything we discuss. You need to use it for a certain objective of what you want to do, and it's not always the best tool. Right? There are other tools out there. So it's not because you have an hammer, then everything is a nail, right? So I think that's a little bit one of the issues with AI is like now it's everywhere, and everyone's like AI become the panacea to everything, but it's not. So what we are doing is, to go to your point, Peter, what we are doing is we are first looking at how can we use AI tool for internal efficiency and basically eating our own dog food and see what works, right? So we are using, just simple example, we are using Copilot for every single programmer. And basically it gives you an efficiency around 30 to 40% for PR reviews, for Copilot, for all that. So that's a typical use case, which I think has been demonstrated over and over again. It works, right? So the same way you have, what you were describing is basically you have a helper who is there and tell you that's where you need to look, that's the information. Then we are using NLP and all that to retrieve the information, to interact. It's just an HMI, it's a way interacting with that. So we're doing that, for example. Another pretty practical example, if you want to do translation of content or documentation, it's like it's a press of a button. Is it, to your point, is it 60% the machine doing it? Like today we're more at 95%, and then 5% is the subtlety of a human with a lot of 50 years of knowledge and practicing language. So I think that's where we are. Will we reach 100%? No, but we'll flirt with it. We'll go to, in this type of thing, which is very mechanical, we'll go to 99%, something like that. I think this 60% is depend on the complexity of the tasks, but everything that is repetitive, yeah, at some point you'll reach a level of efficiency that goes, that goes beyond this 60% and have real benefit for everything. I think where I'm really interesting, and that's why we are trying to get into, and dip our toes in there. It's how can we start using AI to create brand new experience, not just enhance the one we have, but what kind of opportunity it opened up. And I think here it's a blank canvas. We are exploring, we are playing with a few things, but here you need to be a bit creative and find where we are going. But we are implementing AI basically everywhere where there is an efficiency. Potentially, you could use an AI tool. It's pretty straightforward.
Thanks for that. And we're not going yet what you're scared about. That's one of my next questions. So,
yeah.
But Rahul, I'm sure you also have a use case to share or something that you're working on in that space.
Yeah, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. So if you look at some of the mission statements from big companies like Apple, Microsoft, Google, you will see that they are all very human-centric. They talk about user interface, they talk about getting the information, they talk about empowering individuals. So I think what's most important is that for technology, AI, to always stay human-centric. There are differences between AI, which is more about machine learning and then making decisions, and automation. So I think what you mentioned about, we are repeating maybe 50 or 60% of our tasks, I think that issue can be easily resolved with automation, where the machine is not actually making decisions. And I think that is very, very important, especially for the seafaring community or even for the club. So what we have done is we have got lots of data, maybe data from over 25, 30 years of all the claims that we see at the club. And we have put that data and we have automated. So if we want to go to a port or if we want to carry a cargo, we can easily get data on what kind of issues we've had with these things. And we can then have that data sent to whoever is going to that port next. And sending that information can be automated. So that is one aspect of it. But I think from a seafarer's perspective, again, it's very, very important that it remains simple. It is easy for him or her to understand and then implement. We don't want to be in a situation where, it's the doomsday kind of scenario like the movie Terminator, where the mankind is kind of trying to fight the machines to survive. So we don't want to end up in a situation like that, at least not in the distant future. But I think it's very important to keep things simple, keep things more human-centric, and try and distinguish between what is AI and what is automation. We did a small project on AI in the club where we thought that we could use something like ChatGPT to see what kind of answers we can get back on the kind of queries that we get at the club, whether they are from a loss prevention perspective or from a legal perspective. And we saw that it was only about 30 to 35% accurate, and that goes into data. So if the kind of data that is going into the system is so if it's garbage in, it's garbage out, right? So you need to have the people who have the expertise to actually monitor what is being delivered by technology, at least for the next many years, so that we can reach the kind of efficiency which Nicholas just talked about.
Yeah, it has to do also with data quality. I call it the beautiful dashboard effect. The more wonderful a dashboard looks like, the less people look into the source of the data and whether it's whether it can be correct. And it comes also back a little bit to the definition of AI. I think there's also, or the tool itself, is also a lot of misconceptions, right? Where generative AI is basically using neural networks in deep learning, right? And which really makes the step from going away from purely historical evaluation of data into a truly predictive way, right? So then looking into the future, and if you just had your way in your area and you were not restricted by operations or budgets, what would be for the future one of your perfect examples for a dream project involving AI?
Well, honestly, I've yet to see a true AI, 100% AI solution out in the world because it involves 4 different types of models, right? So basically, if I had my way and budget was not a constraint, I would love to build an AI-operated terminal completely. Sorry, Kenneth. It helps Singapore, so yeah. Yeah, where, you know, you don't need to, where you bring in the human element only to say yes or no, all right? But everything else is pretty much run on an AI-operated terminal. Then you don't have customers coming to you and saying, this is biased, you're not giving me any priority. You don't have vendors saying that, hey, you're not being reasonable to me, you know? So 100%, you just talk to the machine. But that's a dream, yeah? That's a dream.
Thanks for that, Franco. And Jamie, any ideas?
Oh, this one, Malik, is an interesting one. I'd have to choose the biggest elephant in the room, and that has to be in a decarbonization, I guess. Right? If there was no restriction on anything, absolutely, I would love to have as many sensors on board, as many vessels as possible, with edge computers on board those vessels, transmitting as much data as possible back to not only the shore, but allowing the people on board to take real-time decisions for fuel optimizations. You're then able to build lots of models, feed that back into new building for lines plans, lead it into better vessel designs. You can even adjust for the tangible effects of the retrofitting of energy-saving devices, and then provide assured data to even financiers that then provide green finance to for the ship owners to further extend the life of vessels. So yeah, it's a big project, but I think it'll be fun.
Stop dreaming now, it's dangerous. Nico.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that since we discussed about it. It's like, it's mixing this idea of risk and an ideal scenario, right? Because in the ideal scenario, you start eliminating humans. That's why I appreciate what you were saying. It's like, it's still eliminating the interrelationship with humans, and of course we're humans, so we just see the negative part, right? The people complaining, but there's also a great part of working with humans, and we are in the human capital management. So I'm definitely not going to eliminate the human from the equation. No, but I think I'm going back to, if you remember the 2 pillars, right? I'm pretty simple. I like simple models. So for me, it's just, we talked a lot about efficiency. I think AI will get there. So I don't want to use my one wish for that part. I think it's going to get solved slowly, but it's going to get solved. But if we focus more on the user experience, and what that I mean, better well-being for the seafarer, is like, I would love to see a world in the maritime space where, first of all, seafaring is a very attractive job, so that it's easy to recruit, it's easy to maintain. It's a job where you can have a proper career, where you can be fulfilled. I don't know yet what AI will do into that, probably taking over all the part that is not so fun. So if it's much easier to get into port and all that, it's much, maybe seafarers have more time ashore and on the vessel to do more interesting, to learn more, to become, and to get rid of these tasks that are dangerous, that are not really necessarily the one that are most
or bureaucratic and repetitive,
and all that. And I think that would be where I would love to use AI as a tool, but other tools, because ultimately my ultimate dream will not be automated vessel running all around, and I can share stories and scars about autonomous driving. I spent quite a lot of time in that, which is still not a really use case en masse, right, at scale. So it's probably trying to find how you can have AI that make the life of seafarer better. That's probably where I would like to use my wish if I could.
Thank you for that.
I think coming from an insurance background, I think the ideal situation would be where AI would be able to predict any incident before it happens. So as long as it can predict the future from a maritime perspective, I think that would be ideal. I think it's also another aspect from an AI perspective is that a lot would depend on what you're asking AI to do. So I think there needs to be some sort of a training. Now, when I see a lot of the job ads for seafarers or for people who would want to work for maritime organizations ashore, there is very little requirement on dealing with technology. So usually you would see that you need to have experience, you need to have your competencies, you need to have some sort of a training, but there is very little requirement on technology. And like you mentioned at the start of the session, that technology is part of our lives and we have to be on board, otherwise we'll be left behind. So I think it's very important that it becomes part of the curriculum so that everybody kind of knows what exactly they need to get out of AI for it to give the right answer.
It's a very valid point, and it's still a digital reality that a lot of people who come on board go back 20 years in digital time. In their private life, they're very much used to having all kinds of digital tools at hand, AI assisted or not. And it's also a reality that at this point in time, only 15% of the maritime respondents have said that they have received any sort of technical or AI-related training. So that is, of course, a gap of 85% to be filled by the world's leading training platform, right? Well, also I want to mention, since Kenneth is in the room, I read and I was surprised that in terms of AI developments, the three leading countries in the world is the US, Singapore, and India. So I just want to throw that in to show that we're very relevant here in this location to talk about it. There's a couple of very interesting questions, I think, which I want to pick up. Klaus, wicked as always. Currently, you think about humans overseeing AI. Can you imagine using the AI to oversee and check on humans to make sure completeness and quality? That's a wonderful question for you, I think, Jamie.
I actually believe there's several applications within the market that currently do this at this moment in time. I'm not going to address the ethical part of that because I don't think that's the question that you're asking. But I think it can be used as an aid, and I'd probably like to go back to what Nicholas said, actually. Like it's a tool. There's a gentleman called Terence Tao, I think he's one of the most intelligent people on the planet. He describes AI as really good guessing machines. And we should use them as a powerful aid. So if you apply AI to oversee human actions, it should only aid in the way we evaluate what those people do.
Can we go back to the questions, please? Okay, what are the key risks of integrating AI into maritime operations, and how can the industry mitigate these to ensure safety and efficiency on board? Would you want to take this?
Yeah, I think the key risk, obviously, the way I see it is cybersecurity. And we also see now issues, geopolitical issues, and scams, and also some issues with sanctions. So I think these are the things where we don't want that an AI tool becomes so effective that it's in the wrong hands and then is misused. So I think that is something which is quite critical. The dark fleet, and there are obviously it can be used for a terror activity and things like that. So I think that's something that is very, very important from my perspective.
Okay, what key skills are needed to ensure effective human-AI collaboration in maritime operations? Would you like to take that?
Okay, I'll take it.
Don't fight.
I'll keep it short, then I can hand over to Nicholas. All right, key skills. Let's keep the technical skills aside. Essentially, I think what's important here is to have a logical mindset, a logical open mindset when you actually look at AI collaboration. Essentially, right, when you train an AI model, it is a function of the human brain. And that presents itself whatever way you want it to think as well. So what's important is to have a very open, logical mindset. Be very neutral with the data that you're feeding into your AI tool. You don't need to be a tech-savvy person to do this. You just need to come in with zero biasness and come up with as many data sets as possible in order to train it to as an unbiased model as possible. Yeah, so that would be what I would say would be a critical area to look at in terms of effective human-AI collaboration, and also growth mindset. Let's keep a growth mindset, right? There's always improvements to be made. Let's look at things as, hey, that RAG model didn't work out. Oh, this is an uttermost failure. I'm just going to can this and just go into my old self of doing things. Let's look at, okay, what could have been done better? What kind of data should I have fed in? Have I thought through the scenarios? Maybe I should expand my scenario set a little bit more. And then try again. It's okay to fail. You fail, you pick yourself, you run again. I'll hand over to Nicholas.
Nicholas, can I also, if you want to comment on that, but how can seafarer training incorporate AI technologies? That's your name is written all over there.
Yes, I think on that the only thing is like keep your critical senses open. Just to give you an example, so we've been toying around, and then I'll go back to the question, just to bring it back to something very concrete. We've been toying around, like one use case for AI is like, why do we have human create content? Let's have machine, like, you know, you can create movies, you can create all you want now. We all bombarded with these ideas to the point that now, linking that to what you were saying, like, you all have that question in the back of your mind when you look at a post, it's like, or you look at whatever, it's like, is it real? You know, like, is it real? Like this, whatever picture you like, you're always like, So there's this criticality, and I think it's a human thing, and we should keep that. So I think that skill is very important, and it goes into this idea of, you know, you can start playing game, having AI engine testing each other, and that's actually a good game to play. You make them talk to each other, and it always end up in a disaster. So which should tell you something. But going back to what you can do, so the example very concrete I want to share is like okay, let's use several engines to create content, and most of the time you end up with a seafarer or a pirate or whatever it is that we are doing, that we are trying to put into a picture or into a video with 3 arms, 3 legs, or this kind of thing. So hallucinating, all the engines hallucinate. So you need to keep your critical senses open. And it will hallucinate for a very, very long time because it's guessing without the knowledge that, guess what? Humans with 3 arms don't exist. The machine has no clue if it doesn't exist, right? So, and if you were to fill your model with thousands and thousands of humans with 3 arms, the machine would be like, oh, cool, they have 3 arms, right? And a human will never get there. So I think that's where you need to keep that critical sense and be like, just be down to earth. It's like, okay, it's a tool, and it makes a lot of mistakes. So going back to the question on how to use AI, it's back to the conversation we had at the beginning. It's enhancing your capabilities, and you need to train that system. And at some point, if you train it enough, it will not put you 3 arms anymore. It will become smarter, but it will hallucinate on something else. It will continue to hallucinate. And I think if we don't have supervision from a human perspective, we will end up, that will become the new reality. And that's very, very dangerous, because then you can go into a doom scenario. Where I'm not a big fan of the doom scenario where we're all going to fight the machine, but the machine can start making false become true. And
especially in Klaus's world. Yeah.
I don't know Klaus enough, but I think that's one of the risks that I see moving forward, is that there's a brand new reality that could be propagated either by people with the wrong intention, or just by machine with the best intention in the world, but with the lack of knowledge.
Thanks. You have already basically done your part in my final question, because it also relates to what we have here. Do you think we need regulations that would control the use of AI on board? So basically, I want to ask you also, with a closing statement now already, because we're nearing the end. Are you really worried, and do you think that there should be a regulation or a limitation, or do you even think that it's possible to regulate it, or will science do what it always does and take its course? Or do you at least think that for the maritime industry we have to find limitations because there might be a massive risk? But it's your I'm asking for your personal feeling about it.
I think personally, yes. I think there needs to be regulations. It is, after all, international trade. We are sending ships from one country to another. There has to be some ethical sharing of information. There has to be some regulation which needs to kind of bind how a ship, for example, a mass vessel would behave when it is in international waters, how it will behave when it is in the port waters of a different state. So I think that regulations are very important. I think ethics in terms of AI is very important. And again, I think keeping it human-centric, keeping it simple for the end user, and also making sure that, the common sense should prevail. Right? Yeah.
Thank you. Cynthia.
I think I'll address this question in two folds. I think regulation around the use of AI, I think, has got to have a behavioral element to it. So which means the intent of criminal activity, those are the ones that I would say should be controlled through the use of regulation, because AI is essentially just a tool. However, where there should be a lot more regulation is on the area around data protection and data privacy. Because essentially what are we using AI for is harnessing data. And the data that's being retrieved out of that is what essentially is the most valuable, that can be used for multiple intent. That, I do believe there should be some further regulation around protection and privacy so that our industry starts trusting that data sharing could be safe as well. Yeah, so I would say it's twofold for me.
Yeah, a lot of companies think of closed loop intelligence, where you do not reveal whatever is happening in your company. Also, the idea is to a system that will process it in a way where you do not know where it ends up. Thank you, very relevant. You have more ideas, or?
No, I think a lot have been covered. It's just a tool. Let's not get overhead with it. Like I think if I want to keep it very down to earth, like it's a tool. It'll do magic and it'll do evil, because we are only human. So we are going to be the one using the tool in the wrong way. It's just going to happen. I think we need to not. There needs to be some critical sense on both ends, but I'm not necessarily a big fan of ultra regulation because it limits the innovation. So we need to find the right balance, and we're going to get it wrong 100%. It's going to be a trial and error, and we'll get it wrong. There will be a lot of issues, but I think we need just to be aware and not trust it 100%. I think that's where I would leave it. It's like, yeah, keep your human senses open and sharp.
I think it's interesting we started with Chakib's post about AI not being the future, it's here. I kind of circle back to that when it comes to regulation. Last year in the US alone, there was a 56% increase in the number of AI-related regulations. The EU in 2019 has already issued out ethical guidelines when it comes to trustworthy AI. Since then, the Vessel AI project has already adopted it. If you look at, say, in Singapore itself, say in a PDPC, when it comes to data privacy, has already issued out these guidelines, say even in Singapore Computer Society as well. Two things. I do agree with Cynthia. Yes, most of it should center around ethics. Most people will look towards government or government bodies to safeguard public interest, so that's probably where it will start. Then you'd look towards industry bodies for more specific, domain expertise. So I don't think whether or not we need regulations, it's coming, but most importantly, it should not stifle innovation. It should be regulated for the purpose of safeguarding us all. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I think what remains to say is it's fun to play with these things, and we surprise ourselves all the time. I've been asked what tool I use to do my LinkedIn posts, and I'm proud to say I couldn't be bothered. But I'm sure there's many fun applications and coming up all the time, but we shouldn't be overwhelmed, and I like your sense of realism, and we say it's our new reality. We have to learn how to live with it, and we have to make the best out of it. Thank you very much for an excellent panel.
Thank you.
Thank you.